Captain Jake Martinez slammed his fist on the metal table. The sound echoed through the meeting room on the space station. His face was red with anger. The alien delegates sitting across from him moved back in their chairs. "You cannot be serious," Jake said. His voice was loud and sharp. 30,000 people are dead. 30,000 innocent humans. The Zephyrian delegate sat still. His blue skin looked almost gray under the station lights. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. The colony was warned to leave. They chose to stay. Jake stood up fast. His chair fell backward with a crash. They were farmers. They had nowhere else to go. You gave them 2 days to pack up 30 years of their lives. Ambassador Lisa Chang put her hand on Jake's shoulder. She was calmer than him, but her dark eyes showed the same anger. "Please sit down, Captain," she said quietly. Jake looked at her for a moment. Then he picked up his chair and sat down. But his hands were still shaking with rage. Lisa turned to face the Galactic Council. Around the big circular room, representatives from 40 different species watched them. Some looked bored. Others seemed uncomfortable. A few appeared interested, like they were watching a show. "The colony on New Haven was legal," Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. "We had all the right papers. We followed all the rules. We paid all the fees." The hegemony representative spoke up. His voice sounded like metal scraping metal. "The Zephyrian Empire claims the system by right of first discovery." "First discovery?" Jake jumped up again. "We found that planet empty. We spent 10 years making it livable. We built cities, farms, schools. Then these blue monsters show up and say they own it?" The Zephyrian delegate's eyes narrowed. "We marked that system 300 years ago. Your primitive species had not even left your home world yet." Jake's face got redder. "Primitive? We'll show you primitive, you piece of—" "Captain Martinez," Lisa said sharply. Jake stopped talking, but his whole body was tense with anger. Lisa walked to the center of the room. All eyes followed her. She was small compared to most of the aliens, but her presence filled the space. "Let me tell you what really happened on New Haven," she said. Her voice carried to every corner of the room. "The Zephyrians landed with warships. They gave the colonists 2 days to leave. When the colonists asked for more time to pack their belongings to arrange transport for their elderly and sick, the Zephyrians said no." She paused and looked around the room. "When the colonists tried to negotiate, the Zephyrians opened fire. They bombed the main city from orbit. They destroyed the hospital first, then the schools, then the homes." The room was quiet now. Even the species that usually made noise while others spoke were listening. "They hunted down the survivors," Lisa continued. "Families hiding in the forests. Children separated from their parents. They killed them all. Every single human on that planet." The Zephyrian delegate spoke up. "They were warned. They were given a chance to leave." Jake started to stand again, but Lisa held up her hand. He stayed in his chair, but his knuckles were white from gripping the armrests. "A chance?" Lisa's voice got louder. 2 days to evacuate 30,000 people? With no ships, no help, no support? You call that a chance?" She walked closer to the Zephyrian. "You want to know what I call it? Murder. Mass murder of innocent civilians." The room erupted in noise. Different species started talking at once. Some defended the Zephyrians. Others argued with each other. The hegemony representative banged his gavel, trying to restore order. Jake looked around the room with disgust. Half of these aliens didn't care about human lives. The other half were too scared of the Zephyrians to do anything about it. Lisa raised her voice above the noise. "We demand justice. We demand the Galactic Council take action against the Zephyrian Empire for this crime." The noise died down. The council president, a tall creature with gray skin and tentacles for arms, spoke up. "The Zephyrian Empire acted within their legal rights. The system was theirs by ancient claim. Ancient claim? Jake couldn't stay quiet anymore. They put a metal flag on a dead rock 300 years ago, and that gives them the right to murder civilians? The law is clear, the president said. First discovery grants territorial rights. Lisa stared at the president for a long moment. Then she looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked sorry for the humans. Most looked indifferent. A few looked pleased that the troublesome humans had been taught a lesson. "I see," she said quietly. Her voice was different now. The anger was still there, but it was colder, more controlled. "So according to galactic law, the Zephyrians can claim any system they tagged centuries ago, even if other species are living." "They're now, that is correct," the president said. "And they can use any force necessary to remove those species. If the occupying species refuses to leave, yes." Lisa nodded slowly. "And the Galactic Council will not intervene in such cases. We cannot override established territorial law." Jake watched Lisa's face change. The red anger faded from her cheeks. Her breathing slowed down. She looked calm now, but something in her eyes made Jake nervous. "I understand," Lisa said. Her voice was quiet now, almost a whisper. But in the silent room, everyone heard every word. "The Galactic Council recognizes the right of stronger species to take territory from weaker ones. You recognize the right to kill civilians who cannot defend themselves. You recognize the right of the powerful to destroy the helpless." The president shifted uncomfortably. "The law must be applied equally to all species." "Equally," Lisa repeated. She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Yes, I see how equally it is applied. When the hegemony took 3 systems from the Valorians last year, the Council did nothing. When the Trade Federation enslaved the population of the Kepler colonies, the Council looked the other way. But when humans ask for justice for murdered civilians, we are told about ancient laws and territorial rights." She walked back to where Jake was sitting. "Captain Martinez, please contact Admiral Roberts. Tell him to recall all human ships from galactic space immediately." Jake blinked in surprise. "All ships? But we have trade routes, patrol duties, joint missions, all ships, Captain. Every human vessel, every human crew member, every human civilian working in galactic space. They are to return to human territory immediately." The room buzzed with surprised voices. The president leaned forward. "Ambassador Chang, there is no need for such drastic action. Perhaps we can discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," Lisa said. Her voice cut through the noise like a knife. "The Galactic Council has made its position clear. The strong may take from the weak, the powerful may destroy the helpless." "Very well." She turned to face the Council one last time. "But understand this. Humanity withdraws from all galactic affairs, effective immediately. All trade agreements are terminated. All diplomatic relations are severed. All military cooperation is ended." Jake stared at her. This was not what he expected. Where was the anger? Where were the threats? Where was the human rage that had become famous throughout the galaxy? "We will not threaten you," Lisa continued. "We will not declare war. We will not make demands or ultimatums. We will simply leave you to the galaxy you have chosen to create." She walked toward the door. Jake followed her, still confused by her calm reaction. At the door, Lisa turned back one more time. "You have shown us that this galaxy has no place for justice, no protection for the innocent, no consequences for the evil. We understand now, and we will act accordingly." The door closed behind them with a soft whisper. In the meeting room, 40 species sat in uncomfortable silence. They had expected human rage. They had prepared for human threats. They knew how to handle human emotion. But this quiet withdrawal, this calm acceptance, this polite farewell, this was something new, something they had never seen from humans before. something that made them more nervous than any threat ever had. 6 months had passed since the humans went quiet. Admiral Paul Roberts stood in the command center deep under the mountains of Colorado. The room was full of screens showing star maps, ship movements, and data streams from across the galaxy. "Report," he said to the young officer at the communications station. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez looked up from her console. "All human ships have returned to our territory, sir. The last cargo vessel from the Outer Rim arrived yesterday." Paul nodded. The recall had been perfect. Every human ship, every human worker, every human diplomat had come home. No one had stayed behind. No one had asked questions. When humanity decided to leave, they left completely. "What about galactic communications?" Paul asked. "Still monitoring everything, sir. The aliens are talking more than ever. They seem confused about our silence." Paul almost smiled. Let them be confused. For 30 years, humans had been the loud ones in the galaxy. Always arguing, always fighting, always making noise about justice and fairness. The other species had gotten used to human anger. They knew how to handle it, but they did not know how to handle human silence. Dr. Helen Kim walked into the command center. She looked tired but excited. Her white lab coat was stained with coffee and grease from working long hours. "Admiral," she said, "we need to talk." Paul followed her to a smaller room filled with computer screens and technical drawings. The walls were covered with designs for new types of ships, new weapons, new technologies. "How is the project coming?" Paul asked. Helen sat down at her desk. "Better than we hoped. The new ships are almost ready. But these are not like anything we have built before." She pulled up a design on her screen. The ship looked normal from the outside, but the inside was completely different. Instead of big guns and armor, it was full of strange devices and equipment. "No weapons?" Paul asked. "No traditional weapons," Helen said. "We are not building ships to destroy. We are building ships to make problems disappear." Paul raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Helen touched the screen, and the design changed. "This device can shut down any computer system without damaging it. This one can make people forget things. This one can make someone fall asleep for days. And this one—" She paused and smiled. "This one can make a person completely lose interest in whatever they were doing." "You mean like a drug?" "No drugs. No chemicals. Just targeted electromagnetic fields that adjust brain chemistry temporarily. A slave master touches this field, and suddenly he does not want slaves anymore. A soldier walks through it and forgets why he was fighting. A politician gets near it and loses all interest in making war." Paul stared at the screen. "That is impossible." 6 months ago, yes, but we have been very busy. When humans get quiet, Admiral, we get creative." She showed him more designs. Ships that could appear and disappear without being detected. Devices that could make entire armies simply walk away from their posts. Technology that could make weapons forget how to fire. "Where did these ideas come from?" Paul asked. Helen leaned back in her chair. "Do you remember what Ambassador Chang said? The galaxy has no place for justice. So we decided to make our own justice. Not with bigger guns or stronger ships, with better ideas." Paul walked to the window. Outside, he could see the construction yards where hundreds of new ships were being built. They looked like normal human vessels, but he knew they were something completely new. "How many people are working on this?" "Every human scientist, engineer, and researcher on Earth, plus volunteers from every human colony. We have never worked together like this before." Paul turned back to her. "And no one outside human space knows about any of this. Nothing. We have been completely silent for 6 months. No communications out, no visitors in. As far as the galaxy knows, we are just hiding and feeling sorry for ourselves." A knock on the door interrupted them. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker entered. He was in charge of the new ship construction. "Admiral," Steve said, "the first squadron is ready for testing." Paul and Helen followed Steve to the hangar. Inside were 12 ships that looked like normal human fighters. But Paul could see the differences if he looked closely. The hulls were smoother. The engines were quieter. The whole design seemed more elegant somehow. "These are the new ghost ships," Steve explained. "They can travel through hyperspace without being detected. They can land on a planet without making any noise. They can be right next to an enemy ship and not show up on any sensors." "How?" Paul asked. "Dr. Kim's team developed a new type of stealth technology. It does not just hide the ship. It makes other people not want to look for it." Helen smiled. "We studied how the brain works when it decides to ignore something. Then we created fields that trigger that same response. Enemy sensors will detect the ship, but the operators will not think it is important enough to report." Paul walked around one of the ships. It looked beautiful and deadly at the same time. But there were no gun ports, no missile launchers, no obvious weapons. "What do they do?" he asked. Steve opened a panel on the side of the ship. Inside were dozens of small devices, each about the size of a coin. "These are deployment drones. Each one carries a different type of field generator. We can deploy them anywhere we need them. And they do what? Whatever we need them to do. Make guards fall asleep. Make prisoners forget they are prisoners. Make slave owners decide to free their slaves. Make warship crews forget how to fight." Paul picked up one of the small devices. It felt warm in his hand. "This is how we fight back. This is how we fix things," Helen said. "The galaxy thinks might makes right. They think the strong should rule the weak. We are going to show them a different way." Over the next few hours, Paul learned about all the new technologies. Ships that could travel anywhere without being seen. Devices that could change how people think without hurting them. Weapons that stopped violence instead of causing it. But the most important thing was the plan. "We start with the Zephyrian Empire," Helen explained. They were back in the command center, looking at star maps. "Their whole society is based on conquest and slavery. We are going to change that." "How?" "We deploy the ghost ships to every Zephyrian world. The drones will affect every Zephyrian citizen over the course of a few weeks. Slowly, quietly, they will lose interest in conquering other species. They will start to see slavery as wrong. They will begin to feel guilty about what they have." "Done." Paul stared at the map. "You are going to change their entire culture. We are going to let them change themselves. The fields do not control minds. They just remove the barriers that stop people from being better. Most beings have good instincts buried under layers of conditioning and fear. We are going to uncover those instincts." Steve pointed to other areas of the map. "At the same time, we will free every slave in Zephyrian space. Not by fighting guards or breaking down doors. By making the guards not want to guard anymore. By making the prisoners remember they are free beings." Amy Rodriguez called from her station. "Admiral, we are getting reports from our monitoring stations. The Zephyrians are expanding their territory again. They just claimed 3 more systems." Paul looked at the reports. The Zephyrians were taking advantage of human absence. With no one to argue with them, they were grabbing every system they could reach. "Good," Helen said quietly. Paul turned to her in surprise. "Good? Let them overextend themselves. Let them think they are winning. The bigger they get, the more systems we can fix at once." On the screens around them, data flowed in from across the galaxy. The hegemony was claiming old human trade routes. The Trade Federation was enslaving more species. Smaller empires were fighting each other for territory, without humans to complain about injustice, to argue for the weak, to make noise about rights and freedoms. The galaxy was becoming a darker place. "They think we gave up," Amy said from her station. "Let them think that," Paul replied. He watched the star maps showing the spread of slavery and conquest across the galaxy. Let them all think that. Helen stood up and walked to the main display. In 2 weeks, the first ghost ships will begin deployment. In 1 month, we will have drones active in every major slave system. In 3 months, the galaxy will start to change. And they will never know we did anything. They will never even know we were there. To them, it will look like people just started making better choices. Like the universe suddenly became a more just place. Paul nodded slowly. For 30 years, humans had tried to change the galaxy by arguing, by fighting, by making noise. They had failed because they were trying to force change from the outside. Now they were going to change things from the inside, quietly, invisibly, permanently. "Sir," Amy called out. "Message coming in from the Galactic Council. They want to know if we are interested in reopening diplomatic relations." Paul looked at the message on his screen. The Council was offering humans a chance to return to galactic affairs, probably because they were having trouble managing all the new conflicts. Without human peacekeepers. "Send a reply," Paul said. "Tell them we are still considering our position. That's all." Amy sent the message. Paul could imagine the confusion on the Council when they received it. Such a simple response. No anger, no demands, no conditions. Just quiet consideration. They would never understand that the humans were not considering whether to return to the galaxy. They were considering how to save it. Commander Zarkith of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his warship. Through the large windows he could see the slave mining operation on the planet below. Thousands of workers moved like ants between the extraction sites and processing centers. "Report on production," he ordered his second-in-command. "Production is down 15% this week, Commander," the officer replied. "The supervisors say the slaves are becoming lazy." Zarkith frowned. Lazy slaves meant lost profits. Lost profits meant angry superiors. Double the punishment schedules. "That will motivate them." "Already tried, sir. The guards say the punishments are not working like they used to." That was strange. Fear had always been the best motivator for slaves. Zarkith had used it successfully for 20 years of service to the Empire. "I will go down and see for myself," he decided. An hour later, Zarkith walked through the main slave compound. Everything looked normal at first. The workers were still digging. The guards were still watching. But something felt different. He stopped at one of the work sites where a group of humanoid aliens were loading ore into containers. Their supervisor, a young Zephyrian named Tokval, was sitting in the shade instead of watching the workers. "Tokval," Zarkith shouted, "why are you not supervising?" The young Zephyrian looked up lazily. "They are working, Commander. They do not need me standing over them. They are slaves. They always need supervision." Tokval shrugged. "I suppose. But they seem to be doing fine on their own." Zarkith stared at him. This attitude was completely wrong. A proper Zephyrian supervisor never relaxed around slaves, never trusted them, never treated them like independent workers. He walked to the next site. The supervisor there was actually helping the slaves carry heavy equipment. "What are you doing?" Zarkith demanded. The supervisor, an older Zephyrian named Morjeth, looked confused. "Helping them move this machine, Commander. It is too heavy for them to lift alone. They are slaves, let them figure it out themselves." Morjeth stopped helping and stepped back, but he looked uncomfortable. "Yes, Commander, of course." But as soon as Zarkith moved on, Morjeth went back to helping the slaves. By the end of the day, Zarkith had seen the same thing at every worksite. Guards were being gentle with prisoners. Supervisors were showing concern for slave welfare. Some Zephyrians were even sharing their food with the workers. That evening, Zarkith called a meeting of all the supervisors. "What is wrong with you all?" he demanded. "You are acting like these creatures are your friends instead of your property. The supervisors looked at each other uncomfortably. Finally, Morjith spoke up. "Commander, have you ever really looked at them?" "I mean really looked?" "Looked at what?" "The slaves. They have families, children. They cry when they are separated. They help each other when they are hurt. They are not so different from us." Zarkith felt his blood pressure rising. "They are inferior beings. They exist to serve the Empire." "But why?" asked Tocqueville. "What makes us better than them? We all breathe the same air. We all feel pain the same way." "Because we are Zephyrians," Zarkith shouted. "We are the master race." But even as he said it, the words felt hollow, empty. For the first time in his life, Zarkith found himself wondering if that was really true. He dismissed the meeting and returned to his ship. But he could not stop thinking about what the supervisors had said. Over the next few days, he found himself watching the slaves more carefully. They did have families. They did help each other. When one of them got sick, the others took care of him. When a child was born, they all celebrated quietly. When someone died, they all mourned, just like Zephyrians did. The thought made Zarkith feel sick to his stomach. He tried to push it away, but it kept coming back. Meanwhile, across Zephyrian space, the same thing was happening on hundreds of worlds. Supervisors were becoming kinder. Guards were becoming gentler. Even high-ranking officials were starting to question the slave system. On the capital world of Zephyr Prime, General Vexter sat in his office reading reports from across the Empire. Every day brought new problems. Slave revolts were not increasing, but slave productivity was dropping everywhere. Supervisors were requesting medical care for workers. Guards were asking for better living conditions for prisoners. What is happening to our people? He wondered aloud. His aide, Colonel Nixara, entered with more reports. "Sir, we have a bigger problem. 3 slave worlds have reported that their entire slave populations have disappeared." "Disappeared? What do you mean disappeared?" "Gone, sir." The morning shift arrived to find empty compounds. No signs of fighting, no broken fences. The slaves were just gone. General Vexter stood up. "That is impossible. Where could thousands of slaves go?" "Unknown, sir. The guards on duty say they do not remember anything unusual happening. They were doing their normal patrols, and then suddenly it was morning, and the slaves were gone. The guards must be lying." "We questioned them." "Under truth scanners, sir. They are telling the truth. They genuinely do not remember what happened." Vexter walked to his window and looked out at the city. Zephyr Prime was built on the labor of 1,000,000 slaves. If slaves could just disappear without a trace, the entire empire was in danger. Double the guards on all remaining slave worlds, he ordered, and send investigation teams to the 3 empty worlds. "I want to know what happened." But the investigation teams found nothing. No evidence of weapons, no signs of struggle, no clues about where the slaves had gone. It was as if they had simply evaporated into space. Captain Ben Foster sat in the pilot seat of his ghost ship, watching the Zephyrian investigation team search the empty slave compound below. The team was thorough, but they would find nothing. The human extraction teams had been very careful. "How many did we get from this world?" he asked his co-pilot. 14,000, Lieutenant Denny Brooks replied. "All safely delivered to the new colonies in the neutral zone." Ben nodded. The rescued slaves were now living on worlds that officially did not exist. Worlds that human ships had found and prepared in secret. Worlds where former slaves could start new lives as free beings. "Any problems with the memory fields?" "None. The guards will never remember seeing our ships. As far as they know, the slaves just vanished. It had taken careful planning. The ghost ships would land at night, invisible to all sensors. The memory fields would make the guards forget to pay attention. The sleep fields would make sure no one woke up during the extraction. Then the motivation fields would make the slaves want to come with them. No violence, no fighting, no one got hurt. The slaves simply walked onto the human ships and disappeared into the night. Target confirmed for tomorrow night, Danny said, reading from his instruments. Slave world Kepler 7. Estimated population 22,000. Mostly Valorians, mixed population. Valorians, hegemony refugees, some species we have not identified. Yet, Ben felt the familiar anger rise in his chest. So many innocent beings suffering in slavery, while the galaxy looked the other way. But he pushed the anger down. Anger was the old human way. Now they had a better way. Set course for Kepler 7, he ordered. And send a message to the other ghost ships. Tell them to begin Phase 2 of the Liberation Protocol. Across Zephyrian space, 12 ghost ships moved silently through the darkness. Each ship carried a crew of volunteers who had lost friends or family to the slave trade. But instead of seeking revenge, they were seeking justice. The ships landed on slave worlds. Like whispers in the night, the crews deployed their field generators with practiced efficiency. Within hours, thousands of slaves would simply walk away from their chains and disappear. And the next morning, the guards would wake up with no memory of what had happened. Dr. Kevin Walsh monitored the operation from his laboratory on Earth. Banks of computers tracked every ghost ship, every field generator, every rescued slave. The numbers were growing every day. Status report, Admiral Roberts asked as he entered the lab. Excellent progress, Kevin replied. We have now liberated over 200,000 slaves from Zephyrian space. The Empire is starting to panic. Any resistance? None. They cannot fight an enemy they cannot see or remember. And the field generators are working better than we hoped. Zephyrian attitudes towards slavery are shifting faster than our models predicted. Admiral Roberts looked at the tactical display showing Zephyrian Empire territory. Red dots marked slave worlds. But many of the dots were turning green as the slaves were freed, and the guards lost interest in maintaining the slave system. How? Long before they figure out what we are doing. They cannot figure out what they cannot remember, Kevin said with a slight smile. To them, it looks like slaves are just disappearing and their own people are losing interest in slavery. There is no evidence pointing to human involvement. And the other empires? The Hegemony Alliance is experiencing similar problems. Trade Federation slave operations are becoming less profitable as their supervisors start questioning the morality of slavery. It is spreading across the galaxy like a quiet revolution. Admiral Roberts nodded. This was exactly what they had planned. Not a war against the slave systems, but a transformation of them. Not destruction of their enemies, but healing of their enemies' minds. Sir, Amy Rodriguez called from her communication station. We are getting reports from our deep space monitors. The Zephyrians are calling. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other while President Toxvar banged his gavel repeatedly. The emergency session had been going on for 6 hours with no progress. Order! Order! Toxvar's voice boomed through the speakers. Slowly, the noise died down. General Vexter of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the center podium. His blue skin looked pale, and his 4 eyes darted nervously around the room. Honored representatives, he began. The Zephyrian Empire faces a crisis, unlike anything in our history. In the past month, over 1 million slaves have vanished from our worlds. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The hegemony representative leaned forward. Vanished how? They simply disappeared. No signs of violence. No broken security. No damaged facilities. One day they were there. The next day they were gone. The Trade Federation delegate spoke up. Perhaps they escaped? 1 million beings? From high-security facilities across 50 worlds? All on the same night? Vexter's voice was strained. This is impossible without advanced technology and precise coordination. Are you suggesting someone is conducting organized raids on your territory? Asked the hegemony representative. We do not know what to suggest. Our investigation teams found no evidence of outside interference, no weapon signatures, no ship traces, nothing. President Toxvar studied the reports on his screen. What about your security forces? Surely they saw something. That is the strangest part, Vexter said. The guards on duty remember nothing unusual. They went to sleep at their posts and woke up to find the slaves gone. Our medical scans show they were not drugged or injured. They simply have no memory of the disappearances. The chamber erupted in discussion again. Several representatives started talking at once about similar problems in their own territories. The Trade Federation has lost 12 slave ships, one delegate announced. The crews remember loading the cargo, but have no memory of it being removed. 3 hegemony prison worlds are now empty, another added. The guards say they just forgot to check on the prisoners for several days. President Toxvar felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. This was not random. This was coordinated. But by whom? Has anyone attempted to contact the humans about this? He asked. The chamber fell silent. For a moment, no one spoke. Finally, the hegemony representative answered. We sent several messages to human territory, no response. What kind of messages? Requests for information, offers to resume trade relations, invitations to return to the council. And their reply? Nothing, complete silence. Vexter slammed his fist on the podium. The humans must be behind this. They have the technology. They have the motivation. Who else could make 1,000,000 beings disappear without a trace? But how? President Toxvar asked. Human ships have not been detected anywhere near your territory. Our deep space sensors show no human activity outside their own systems. Then they have developed new stealth technology, advanced enough to fool every sensor network in the galaxy. That would require scientific breakthroughs far beyond current human capabilities. Vexter's eyes blazed with anger. 6 months ago, humans were demanding justice for their dead colonists. Now 1,000,000 of our slaves have vanished. You think this is coincidence? Before anyone could answer, the chamber's main doors opened. Every head turned to see who was entering. A human woman walked in alone. She was small and appeared unarmed. Her dark hair was pulled back simply, and she wore a plain gray uniform with no rank insignia. She moved with calm confidence toward the center of the room. The chamber fell completely silent. No alarms had sounded. No security alerts had triggered. She had simply appeared as if she had always been there. President Toxvar stared at her. How did you get in here? This chamber is secured against unauthorized entry. The woman looked around the room with calm eyes. My name is Nicole Carter. I represent the human government. Impossible, Vexter snarled. Our sensors would have detected any human ship approaching this station. Nicole smiled slightly. Your sensors detected my ship, General. Your security officers saw me dock. Your guards watched me walk through the corridors. They simply did not think it was important enough to report. That makes no sense, does it not? Tell me, General, when did you last think about the color of the walls in your home? You see them every day, but your mind filters them out as unimportant. We have simply learned to trigger that same filtering response. President Toxvar felt his heart's beating faster. What do you want? Nicole walked to the center of the chamber. I am here to deliver a message from humanity. We have been trying to contact your government for months, Toxvar said. Why send a representative now? Because now you are ready to listen. Vexter stepped toward her aggressively. Where are our slaves? What have you done with them? Nicole turned to face him. Her expression did not change, but something in her eyes made Vexter stop moving. Your slaves are free, she said simply. They are living new lives in places where slavery does not exist. You had no right, did we not? You established the right of the strong to take from the weak. We are simply stronger than you thought. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted accusations and demands. Nicole stood quietly in the center of the chaos, waiting. President Toxvar banged his gavel until the room quieted. Are you admitting that humanity is responsible for these disappearances? I am telling you that slavery no longer exists in this galaxy, Nicole replied. The beings you called slaves are now free citizens of independent worlds. You cannot simply steal populations from sovereign territories. Can we not? The Zephyrian Empire stole the population of New Haven. They claimed the right of conquest. We claim the right of liberation. Vexter's face turned dark blue with rage. This is an act of war. No, General. This is an act of justice. We told you we would. Act accordingly to the galaxy you chose to create. You chose a galaxy where might makes right. We are simply more mighty than you imagined. How? President Toxvar asked. How did you do this? Nicole looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked frightened. Others looked angry. A few looked curious. For 30 years, we tried to change this galaxy by arguing with you, by pleading for justice, by making emotional appeals to your better nature. It did not work. She paused and her voice became colder. So we stopped talking and started acting. We developed technology you cannot detect. We learned to influence thoughts you do not know you are thinking. We mastered the art of being ignored until the moment we choose to be seen. Impossible, the Trade Federation delegate whispered. Is it? How many of your own security forces have stopped caring about their duties lately? How many of your supervisors have started questioning the morality of slavery? How many of your citizens have begun to feel guilty about the suffering they cause? The chamber fell silent again. Every representative was thinking about the reports they had been receiving. Guards abandoning their posts. Officials releasing prisoners. Citizens demanding an end to slavery. You have been changing our people's minds, President Toxvar said slowly. We have been removing the barriers that prevented your people from following their better instincts. Most beings do not enjoy causing suffering. They do it because their society tells them it is necessary. We simply reminded them that it is not. Vexter stepped forward again. You cannot change an entire galaxy. Can we not? We have already freed every slave in Zephyrian space. We have liberated 12 trade Federation slave ships. We have emptied every hegemony prison world, and your own people are helping us do it. Our people would never. Your people are doing it right now, General. On Zephyr Prime, your capital world, 6 slave compounds have been emptied by your own guards. They simply opened the doors and told the slaves they were free to go. Vexter eyes widened in shock. That is impossible. I would have been informed. Nicole smiled. Check your messages, General. Vexter activated his personal communicator. His face went pale as he read report after report of guards and supervisors releasing slaves across the Empire. You see, Nicole continued, we do not need to fight you. We just need to help your people remember who they really are underneath all the conditioning and fear. President Toxvar leaned forward. What do you want from us? 7 days, Nicole said. You have 7 days to establish the Galactic Justice Protocol. What is that? Full reparations for all enslaved species. Immediate cessation of all slavery throughout the galaxy. Universal enforcement of sentient rights. And a guarantee that no species will ever again be subjected to genocide or mass displacement. And if we refuse, Nicole's smile faded. Then, we continue our work. Every slave in the galaxy will be freed. Every being who profits from suffering will lose interest in profit. Every government that rules through fear will find their people no longer afraid. You are threatening to brainwash the entire galaxy. We are offering to heal the entire galaxy. The choice is yours." She turned and started walking toward the door. "Wait," President Toxvar called. "How do we know you can do what you claim?" Nicole stopped and looked back. "General Vexter, contact your homeworld. Ask them about the status of every slave facility on Zephyr Prime." Vexter hesitated, then activated his long-range communicator. "Command Center, this is General Vexter. Report on slave facility status." 6 days after Nicole Carter's visit to the Galactic Council, President Toxvar signed the Galactic Justice Protocol. His hands shook as he put his signature on the document that would change the galaxy forever. The protocol was unlike any law ever passed by the Council. It did not just ban slavery, it made slavery impossible. Every world would have monitoring stations that could detect forced labor. Every ship would carry sensors that could identify trafficking victims. Every government would submit to regular inspections. But the most important part was the enforcement clause. Any species that violated the protocol would face immediate intervention by an unnamed enforcement agency. Everyone knew what that meant. The humans would come. Captain Tony Blake stood on the bridge of his ship watching the stars. His vessel was one of 50 human ships now patrolling the galaxy openly. They were no longer ghost ships hiding in the darkness. They were guardians, visible to all who looked. "Status report," he said to his communications officer. "All sectors. Report compliance with the protocol, sir," Lieutenant Carol Hayes replied. "No slavery detected in any monitored system." "What about the former slave worlds?" "Rehabilitation programs are running smoothly. The Valorian refugees have established 3 new colonies. The hegemony prisoners have been given citizenship on independent worlds. Even the former Zephyrian slaves are adapting well to freedom." Tony nodded. It had been a year since the protocol was signed. A year since slavery ended throughout the galaxy. The transformation had been remarkable. The Zephyrian Empire still existed, but it was completely different now. Instead of conquering other species, they were helping rebuild the worlds they had damaged. Instead of taking slaves, they were offering jobs and education to refugees. It was as if the entire species had woken up from a bad dream. "Sir," Carol called. "Message coming in from Admiral Roberts on Earth. Put it through." Admiral Roberts appeared on the main screen. He looked tired but satisfied. "Captain Blake, how are things in Sector 7? "Quiet, sir." "The kind of quiet we like now," Roberts smiled. "Good. I have new orders for you. The Council has requested human assistance with a problem in the Outer Rim." "What kind of problem?" "Pirates have been attacking trade ships, but these are not ordinary pirates. They seem to be using some kind of mind control technology on their victims." Tony raised an eyebrow. "Mind control?" "The attacked crews have no memory of the raids. They wake up to find their cargo gone but cannot remember how it happened." "Sound familiar?" Tony understood immediately. Someone was copying human technology. Any idea who? Unknown. But whoever they are, they learned from watching us. The Council is worried that other groups might try to use similar methods for criminal purposes. "Orders, sir?" "Investigate and stop them." But Tony ... double quotes Roberts paused. "Use the old methods if you have to. Sometimes the only way to stop someone who uses our technology is to show them what we can do when we are not being gentle." Tony's ship changed course toward the Outer Rim. As they traveled, he thought about how much the galaxy had changed. A year ago, humans had been the angry species, always fighting for justice, but never achieving it. Now they were the quiet guardians, and their silence was respected throughout the galaxy. Dr. Jennifer Scott worked in her laboratory on Earth, analyzing reports from across the galaxy. The Silent Protocol project had been more successful than anyone had imagined. Slavery was extinct. Genocide was impossible. Wars of conquest had stopped completely. But success brought new challenges. "Admiral," she said into her communicator. "We have a problem." Roberts appeared on her screen. "What kind of problem?" "The field generators are working too well. Some species are becoming completely passive. They are not defending themselves against natural disasters or environmental threats. They need some aggression to survive, but our technology is removing all of it. Can you adjust the fields? We are trying. But this shows us something important. We cannot fix the galaxy by changing how people think. We can only give them the choice to be better." Roberts nodded. "What do you recommend?" "We start removing the field generators, gradually. Let people make their own choices without our influence. And if they choose to return to slavery and war." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "Then we will be here to remind them why that is a bad choice." 3 months later, Captain Tony Blake found the pirates in a hidden base inside an asteroid field. His ship approached carefully, sensors scanning for any signs of the mind control technology. "What do you see?" he asked his science officer. "Definitely human-derived technology, sir. But it is crude. Whoever built this does not really understand how it works." Tony activated the ship's communication system. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain Blake of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are ordered to surrender immediately." The reply came back filled with laughter. "Earth Defense Fleet? You humans lost your bite when you went quiet. We know all about your peaceful ways now. You know some things," Tony said calmly. "But not everything. We have your mind control weapons. We can make you forget you ever found us. Try it." The pirate base activated their stolen technology. Energy waves washed over Tony's ship, designed to make the crew forget where they were and what they were doing. Nothing happened. "Impossible," the pirate leader shouted. "Your own technology should work on you." Tony smiled grimly. "You made one mistake. You assumed we only developed technology to change other people's minds. We also developed technology to protect our own minds." His ship's weapons powered up. But these were not the gentle field generators that made people lose interest in fighting. These were the old human weapons. The kind that destroyed things completely. "You have 10 seconds to surrender," Tony said. "After that, we will show you the difference between humans choosing to be peaceful and humans choosing to be quiet." The pirates tried to run. Their ships were fast, but human ships were faster. They tried to hide, but human sensors could see through any stealth technology. They tried to fight, but human weapons were far superior to anything the pirates had stolen. Battle was over in minutes. The pirate ships were disabled, but not destroyed. The crews were captured, but not killed. When the pirates woke up in human holding cells, they found their stolen technology had been removed, and their memories of how it worked had been erased. "You see," Tony explained to the pirate leader, "we did not become peaceful because we lost our strength. We became peaceful because we chose to use our strength differently. But when someone forces us to choose between peace and justice, we will always choose justice." The pirate was sent to a rehabilitation facility where he would learn to use his skills for legal purposes. His crew was given the same choice. Most of them chose rehabilitation over prison. When Tony's ship returned to Earth, Admiral Roberts was waiting with new orders. "The Council wants to establish a permanent human peacekeeping force," Roberts said. "Ships stationed throughout the galaxy to respond to threats like these pirates. Are we becoming the galaxy's police force? We are becoming what we always were, the species that will not tolerate injustice. The difference is that now we have the power to do something about it." Tony looked out at the stars. "And if other species resent our power, then they can develop their own power and use it for justice. We would welcome the help." Years passed. The galaxy settled into a new rhythm. Wars still happened, but they were fought between armies, not against civilians. Trade disputes were resolved through negotiation rather than conquest. Criminal organizations were stopped before they could grow large enough to threaten entire systems. And always, human ships moved quietly through space, watching and waiting. Most of the time, they did nothing. Their presence was enough to prevent most problems. But when action was needed, they acted swiftly and decisively. The other species learned to read the signs. When humans started talking loudly about injustice, it meant they were angry but still willing to negotiate. When humans went quiet, it meant they were done talking and ready to act. The galaxy learned to prefer human anger to human silence. Dr. Jennifer Scott published her final report on the Silent Protocol. The technology had been successful beyond all expectations. Slavery was extinct. Genocide was impossible. The strong could no longer prey on the weak without consequences. But the most important lesson was not about technology. We learned, she wrote, that the greatest power is not the ability to destroy your enemies, but the ability to change them into friends. We learned that true strength comes not from making others fear you, but from making them trust you. And we learned that sometimes the most powerful weapon is simply the willingness to walk away until others are ready to do better. The report concluded with a simple observation. The galaxy used to fear human rage because it was loud and unpredictable. Now they fear human silence because it is quiet and unstoppable. But what they should really fear is human disappointment. Because when humans are disappointed in you, they do not destroy you. They fix you. And being fixed by someone who loves justice more than they love victory is far more terrifying than any weapon ever built. Captain Tony Blake, now Admiral Blake, stood in the command center on Earth, watching displays that showed the entire galaxy. Green lights indicated systems at peace. Yellow lights showed minor conflicts being resolved through negotiation. There were no red lie,